at night you can sleep with your feet on it, your heels on it, and during the day you can just put your feet on it while you're sitting at your workstation or wherever. So yeah, it's really, I think the single um, easiest thing that you can do to get started on your journey of healing is to be grounded as much as possible. And then, these kind of things a shift will happen sometimes immediately. Like you'll find that a lot of people find that they sleep much better and that they wake up feeling a lot more refreshed when they're grounded. And people who are sensitive enough will actually notice the difference. Like my mother, for example, can feel it. Like she won't sleep well anymore. Like her sleep, she thought she was sleeping well, and then she realized she wasn't sleeping as well as she could have been sleeping. And so when she's grounded, she sleeps even better than what she used to think was good enough. But then like when the system, I think her grounding system got unplugged or something, and she started sleeping poorly again. And then she realized it was unplugged, and she was like, "Oh, I should have known just because I wasn't sleeping well anymore." So yeah, another thing that people should aim to do is to just become more sensitive, right? We've desensitized ourselves by having a culture of a band-aid solution culture that is afraid of discomfort so much. We've actually become desensitized to things, and so we don't get the messages very often. So try to pay more attention to the way you feel and see whether you feel better when you're grounded. And most people will. And even if you don't, just continue doing it and just understand that the benefit is there, and it might take a little while to manifest.
Awesome. So, should we conclude today's session?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. If anyone's interested in learning more, I do publish a blog at blog.mygotodoc.com. You can, occasionally I'll have new things there, and there's a lot of posts that have been published in the past, almost like the size of a book. So there's a lot of things you can go back and read. And for really the highest level of healing, it's not at our main site, which is mygotodoc.com. It's at mygotodoc.com/Hakim. Hakim is a word which will probably be familiar to people in the subcontinent. So Hakim. And that's actually a friend and partner of mine who sees patients there. And I trusted him with my own healing and with my, family members. So I think he's got deep roots in Ayurvedic medicine and Chinese medicine, and also in mainstream, modern naturopathic medicine, and the rest. So if somebody's really interested in getting like really down to the deepest levels and truly healing, I won't say it's easy, okay? Like it is going to be bitter medicine. It's going to be stuff you don't want to do and stuff that feels uncomfortable and weird and strange. And, it's going to take you outside your comfort zone. But if you're willing to make that true healing journey, then I think he's the best in the world. And he's particularly good. I mean, most of his experiences with the worst diseases you can imagine, like end stage cancers. And I wouldn't trust anyone else with an end stage cancer. And again, like, just one of the stories he's told me about one of his patients that he saw, which kind of gives people an understanding of really what disease is doing. He had a patient of his, actually a whole family was his patient, and then the eldest lady in the family, like the matriarch, their mother, had dementia, and they came to him and they said, "We'd like you to help treat her dementia." And he told them, she was like 90 or something, right? So she was near the end of her life, anyway, 80s, 90s, somewhere in the late 80s or 90s. And he realized that she really wouldn't be able to deal with what she needed to deal with. And so his key understanding was that her dementia was actually a protective thing. It was protecting her from something that she had felt unable to deal with, right? And so it was a protection from an emotion or a feeling or a thought or something that was too overwhelming for her to deal with, right? So the dementia took that away from her and gave her relief, right? And so he told them that if we fix her dementia and she doesn't deal with the thing that the dementia was covering up, right? That it was there for, she could die, right? Like she could get cancer and die, right? And so they were like, no, 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 she'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it, whatever. And so her dementia did start to clear up. And she did get cancer and she did die, right? So it's not funny. I mean, it's probably a sad story, but other people can learn from this that the disease is not there to hurt you. The disease is your friend. And the disease is your best chance at solving the real problem, which is not the discomfort the disease gives you. That's not your real problem. You have to welcome the discomfort. The discomfort is the solution if you understand it, if you understand it properly, and you're willing to take the journey. So for some people, leaving them in the disease is more helpful to them than trying to make the disease manifestation vanish, because some other problem will crop up because they haven't dealt with the real problem. They've just dealt with the superficial level. And so all disease is a blessing. All things that appear negative in this world are actually blessings. There's actually nothing bad because the divine is in control of everything. It's not like the divine and the devil are like equal, opponents. That's not the way the world works. The divine is actually in charge of everything, the things that look bad and the things that look good, right? There's these parables, right, in every tradition. Like there's a famous one, I think, in Chinese medicine where a farmer's son like breaks his leg or something, and everyone's like, oh, how terrible he broke his legs, and the neighbor is like, oh, how terrible your son broke his leg, and the farmer's like, we'll see. And then a war breaks out and he doesn't get drafted and he doesn't have to go and fight in the war. And the neighbor comes and says, oh, how wonderful. The broken leg meant that your son didn't have to go to war. How great that is, And now the thing that the person thought was bad is now all of a sudden they think is good. And the farmer says, let's wait and see. And the story continues. Like each time the neighbor changes their opinion on whether the thing was good or bad, right? Based on changes in the world around them. And so really you got to give the benefit of the doubt to your life, your whole life. You don't know the outcome of it until the end. All the things that you think are bad are really only happening to you to push you in the direction of your own benefit, even sometimes against your own will and your own, like if you were left to your own devices, you would keep hurting yourself, right? And then you would die and be left in a bad situation in the next life, right? So sometimes it's actually better for somebody to go through the suffering of the disease, even die with the suffering of the disease, because it changes their soul in a way that it couldn't have changed without the disease. So as physicians, as healers, we have to understand this, that we can't always give somebody an easy way out of their problem. The easy way out doesn't actually help them in the end. Even if the thing that they think they came to you to solve actually gets solved, this requires deep wisdom, right? So all practitioners have to have this level of wisdom, which is why, and restraint, actually, right? Like you might know that, okay, if I give somebody this particular herb, all their problems will vanish. And yet then they're just gonna like go off and take that herb for the rest of their life. And they might come back to me or somebody else in a few years with a much worse problem because they didn't really solve their problem with the hack. So anytime you hear of something like this, you can collect all these hacks and all these little things. This works and this works and this works and this works, and add them all together, and suddenly, you feel better and better and better until your disease is gone. Always keep in mind that that's not the real problem. The real problem is a problem in the soul. And if it's not addressed, then you will pay back with interest what you've put off. Okay. So you're passing the buck, right? That's what you're doing. You're saying, I don't want to deal with this now. If you pass it to your future self, the future self has to deal with a bigger problem. It's always a bigger problem in the future than it is right now. So this is the main thing that people need to understand. There's no time like right now to deal with your problem. And that usually means changing your life in ways you don't want to change it. And, not staying up all night on, Twitter or whatever, right? Like whatever your, particular, poison of choice is, right? Like you need to balance your life. You need to sleep enough. You need to, eat not too much, not too little, fast, not too much, not too little, exercise, not too much, not too little. Everything is about balance. And we're all way out of balance. And the only reason we have difficulties are because we're out of balance. I mean, no one's in perfect balance, and yet we can get closer and closer to balance. And that's really the whole journey of life, is getting closer and closer to that level of higher balance.
I think that's a beautiful way to end this podcast. We need to all find balance, and sometimes discomfort will be there, but it's going to be worth it. So, with that, I want to thank you, Dr. Heather, for giving your time to us. It's been a wonderful discussion and a wonderful insights which we got. So, thanks again.